Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Today we're going to begin a brand new series that we are titling God the Giver. God the Giver. We're going to talk about the subject in Scripture that is the God's favorite activity, giving. And we're going to follow in his footsteps. So the title of our first message in our series is Tithing and Ownership. Tithing and Ownership. Now, you've probably noticed that here in our congregation, we don't pass the plate. We don't sing a long hymn and continue to make suggestions for you to empty your wallet into the plate. Because we actually believe that giving is a form of worship. And giving is a blessing, is positioning ourselves to receive a blessing. We don't give to get. We give for its own sake, because that's how he gives. No strings attached. So we're going to talk about this subject, and we're going to do it in a biblical manner, and in a manner from the motivation to see us all experiencing the Lord's blessings. Next week we're going to get very personal, maybe even uncomfortably personal. We're going to talk about, Michelle and I, we're going to talk about our own journey through giving. And we're going to share with you the good and the bad and the very ugly too. The ugly mostly for me. But we're going to share with you our own walk so that you see that I'm not just teaching scriptural principles, which is a good thing, which we need to do, but that this is a walk that is very much part of who we are. And we're going to share with you the blessings that we live in now. Not necessarily the material blessings, although we do have them, but most importantly, the protected life, the life of Israel living in security within their borders. You see, all of these things have spiritual applications for every believer in all the nations. So the lessons that we learn through the Torah of physical, concrete Israel, they have meanings way beyond that apply to all. And we're going to do that throughout our series. So today we want to begin with this. And now, the first thought that we need to consider when we talk about giving actually is ownership. That is why I wanted to begin with our testimonies and dive into our own story. But the Lord showed me that I needed to lay a foundation, because you have to speak of ownership. You have to speak of ownership in order to understand giving, and specifically to understand tithing. And so we have the title of our message today, Tithing and Ownership. So we're going to see this matter of ownership as a basis for giving. Now, the reason that God is a giver, obviously, is because he is owner. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, says the Psalms. He owns the entire universe. It's in his hands, as we sing. But even though he owns the whole earth, every country, he has chosen one for himself. He has chosen a land to be his personal inheritance. That is the reason why he is able to give this land, because he is the owner of it. I want us to begin actually in the parsha for today, in the portion of, today we have two portions combined. And so in the very first verses of the very first one, Leviticus 25, we're going to begin there. Have it on the screen for you, and obviously you can take it home and study it at home. Leviticus 25:1 begins by saying, "The Lord then spoke to Moses at Mount Sinai, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, and say to them, When you come into the land which I shall give you, then the land shall have its Sabbath to the Lord." The most obvious statement here, perhaps, is, "I shall give you." You see, the Lord is able to give this land because he owns it. This land is the Lord's land. In Exodus 19:5, we read how the whole earth belongs to the Lord. It says, "Now then, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be my own possession." Notice how he's speaking about the people here. Not just the land in this particular verse, but he's speaking about the people. You will be my own possession among all the peoples, for all the earth, the inhabitants, and the land, all the earth is mine. The Lord is the one that has sovereign ownership. It's not the United Nations. Not even their own countries own their own land. And we'll see this in a verse that explains it in a beautiful way. And it is this one coming up here. Leviticus 25, still within our portion for today. Leviticus 25:23, it says, "The land, moreover, shall not be sold permanently. For the land is mine," again, "for you are but aliens and sojourners with me." You see, not even Israel, who is receiving this land as a gift from the Lord, not even Israel has a sovereignty as creator over the land. Now, this doesn't mean that Israel is in fear of losing this gift. Now, they may lose, and we've lost, the enjoyment of this gift for some generations. But as a people, we were under discipline. You see, when we discipline our children, they don't stop being our children. And even more so, they never stop standing in line to receive our inheritance. Israel never was in danger of losing the inheritance because it was given by oath for his own sake by God. The danger that we read of in our portion today was for the generation who disobeyed and did not follow the Lord. They were in danger of losing the enjoyment for those generations, and for the children and the children's children. They were in danger of losing the enjoyment of the land. So you are but aliens and sojourners with me. He is the landowner. And so he gives the land, he disciplines those who do not follow his covenant, and allows others to enjoy it. That is the case today. One of the most clear arguments for the existence, the very existence of God today, is the fact that Israel is again a nation with the possession of the land. Not based on Israel's behavior, conduct. People trip over this, if I may use this fancy word. People trip over this. It is a stumbling block for some. That Israel is not that super righteous nation, as if any other nation is more righteous than Israel. If we were to judge by that, then the United States will lose possession of the land, would have lost it a long time ago, probably in the 60s. It's not like that. The Lord is compassionate and He is patient. He is owner, and He has the right to give this land according to His will. Now, the important thing then is that God not only owns the whole earth and the land of Israel because He is creator, but He specifically owns the land of Israel because He sanctifies Israel. This is extremely important to understand. Back to Leviticus, to Exodus 19:5, it says, "If you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, then you shall be my own possession among all the peoples. For all the earth is mine," now verse 6, "and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation." Ownership, according to this verse, is based on sanctification. You see, God sanctifies something, and when He does, He sanctifies people, He sanctifies land, He sanctifies objects, He sanctifies time. When He sanctifies, He brings that which He is sanctifying near to Him. There is a close proximity that indeed is contact. God transmits sanctification and holiness by contact. When He wanted to sanctify the altar, the holy place, the whole tabernacle, what did He do? He came down and His glory touched everything. Sanctification is transmitted by contact, by proximity. That is why He sanctifies us by bringing us near to Him. You who were far off, now you have been brought near, and you are sanctified. Exodus 15:13 says, In your loving kindness led the people you have redeemed. You guided them in your strength to your holy habitation. What do you think the holy habitation is possibly referring to here? Well, the context tells us. It says, verse 14, when the peoples hear, they will tremble. What people? Well, anguish will seize the inhabitants of Philistia. Verse 15. Then the chief of Edom are terrified. Trembling grips Moab, and mighty men, all of Canaan's inhabitants, will melt away. What is the Lord's holy habitation that He is speaking of in this passage? The land of Israel. You see, it's naming all of the neighbors. It goes around, names Moab and the neighbors, the Philistines, and then it centers in, focuses in on the Canaanites, because this is the land that He is giving to Israel. It is His holy habitation. The land of Israel is holy. It is God's, not only because He created it, but because He sanctified it. When God sanctifies things, they become His to be used for the purpose that He determines. And it cannot be used in any other way. The passage ends in verse 17 by saying, you bring them in and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, the place, Adonai, that you have made for yourself to dwell in. That's why it is holy. The sanctuary, Adonai, which your hands have prepared. Adonai will reign forever and ever. This land is holy. That is why he owns it, because he has taken it to himself for his own purposes. So when God sanctifies, he draws near to himself. Sanctification comes through that proximity, through contact with him. Now, in Leviticus 22, 2 and 15, we read, tell Aaron and his sons to be careful with the holy gifts of the sons of Israel, which they dedicate to me. The word dedicate is also the word kadash, which they sanctify. Right? They sanctify to me. So as not to profane my holy name. So be careful so as not to profane. Profane is the opposite of sanctification. Verse 15, it says, they shall not profane the holy gifts. Do not profane the holy gifts of the sons of Israel, which they offer to the Lord. Now, to profane means to treat as common, as if it is not holy. You can't take, remember the king in Babylon who decided to call out for the vessels that had been brought from the temple in Israel, in Jerusalem. He decided to call for those vessels so that they can drink and toast and use those utensils in absolutely the wrong way. And his kingdom fell that very night as consequence. You cannot use that which is holy in a way that profanes it, as if it is not holy. Let me put it this way. You can use that which is holy as if God was not the owner, as if you were the owner of it. That is profaning. Profaning. Can't use it in the wrong way. Can't use it as if it is not holy. Can't use it as if you own it, because he owns it by reason of sanctification. You see, even if it is something that used to belong to you and you've dedicated to him, you can't take it back. It is holy now. It does not belong to you anymore. You cannot use it as if it does not belong to him, because it is to profaning. So God gives the land because he owns it, because he sanctified it. Now in Scripture, land isn't just a place to live. Let's bring this a little more real. Let's make this a little more understandable in our terms. A piece of land in Scripture, maybe for us we think of land, right, because we're not farmers and we're not ranchers, most of us. Unless Mark, I don't know, you have cattle, Mark? I didn't think so. Now, when we think of land, we think of building a house. We think of a piece of land in which we can live, build something on it. In Scripture, that's not how they thought. In Scripture, owning land meant cultivating. So, to give someone a piece of land, to just bring it down to the bottom line, literally the bottom line, to give someone a piece of land was to give them a number of crops. So you count the years that you are to own that piece of land because you're counting the crops of the different types of produce of the land, the wheat, the barley, the olive, the grapes, and all of the fruits. Yearly, this is going to yield crops, which means